Once upon a time, in a small village in Nigeria, there lived a young man named Nosa. Nosa was known for his kindness and always helping others. He lived in a cozy house with his beautiful wife, Amara. One day, Amara's mother, Mama Nkechi, came to visit. Nosa was excited to welcome her because he wanted to make a good impression. But little did he know, Mama Nkechi was not an easy person to please. From the moment she arrived, Mama Nkechi found something to complain about. "This soup is too salty," she exclaimed at dinner. Nosa apologized and promised to do better next time. The next morning, Mama Nkechi said, "Nosa, why is the house so dirty? You need to clean more often." Nosa sighed but didn't argue. He grabbed a broom and started sweeping the floors. Days turned into weeks, and Mama Nkechi's demands grew. "Nosa, the garden looks terrible. You need to plant more flowers," she said one day. Nosa, wanting to keep the peace, spent hours planting colorful flowers in the garden. Despite all his efforts, Mama Nkechi never seemed happy. Nosa was starting to feel very tired and sad. He missed the peaceful life he used to have with Amara before Mama Nkechi arrived. One evening, after a particularly long day, Nosa sat on the porch, looking at the stars. Amara joined him and asked, "Nosa, what's wrong? You look so tired." Nosa sighed and replied, "I want to make your mother happy, but it seems like nothing I do is ever good enough." Amara hugged him and said, "I know it's been hard. My mother is very particular about things. But I appreciate everything you do for us." Just then, Mama Nkechi came outside and saw them talking. She frowned and said, "Nosa, why are you sitting around? There's still work to be done." Nosa stood up, feeling even more tired. He wondered how much longer he could keep up with Mama Nkechi's demands. Nosa took a deep breath and walked back into the house, feeling more exhausted than ever. As he was cleaning the kitchen, he thought of a plan. Maybe if he could find a way to impress Mama Nkechi with something special, she might finally be pleased. The next day, Nosa woke up early and went to the market. He bought the freshest ingredients and decided to cook Mama Nkechi's favorite meal, jollof rice with fried plantains and grilled fish. He spent the whole morning preparing the meal, making sure everything was perfect. When it was ready, he called Mama Nkechi to the dining table. "Mama Nkechi, I made your favorite dish. I hope you like it," he said, smiling nervously. Mama Nkechi sat down and took a bite. She chewed slowly, and Nosa watched her anxiously. Finally, she nodded and said, "This is good, Nosa. You did a good job." Nosa's heart filled with joy. He finally made her happy. For the first time since she arrived, Mama Nkechi seemed pleased with something he had done. That evening, Nosa and Amara sat on the porch again. This time, they were joined by Mama Nkechi. She looked at Nosa and said, "You know, Nosa, you've worked very hard since I arrived. I can see how much you care for my daughter and this household." Nosa smiled and replied, "Thank you, Mama Nkechi. I just want everyone to be happy." Mama Nkechi nodded and said, "I see that now. Maybe I've been too hard on you. I'll try to be more understanding." Nosa felt a wave of relief wash over him. It seemed like things might finally start to get better. But little did he know, there were still more challenges ahead. The next morning, Mama Nkechi announced, "Nosa, I think it's time to teach you some of our family traditions. It's important for you to know them." Nosa agreed, eager to learn and continue building a better relationship with his mother-in-law. Mama Nkechi started by showing him how to weave baskets, a skill that had been passed down in her family for generations. At first, Nosa struggled. His baskets were crooked, and the materials kept slipping from his hands. But Mama Nkechi was patient, guiding him step by step. Slowly, Nosa began to improve. One afternoon, as they were weaving together, Mama Nkechi told Nosa stories about her childhood. She spoke of the village she grew up in, the adventures she had, and the lessons she learned from her own mother. Nosa listened intently, appreciating this glimpse into her past. As days went by, Nosa and Momonkechi began to bond over their shared activities. They cooked together, tended the garden, and even took walks in the village. Momonkechi started to see Nosa not just as her son-in-law but as a valuable member of the family. Just as things were starting to look brighter, a new challenge emerged. One evening, a fierce storm hit the village. The wind howled, and the rain poured down, threatening to flood their home. Nosa, Amara, and Momonkechi had to work together to protect their house from the rising waters. Nosa took charge, quickly organizing a plan. Amara, you gather all the towels and blankets to soak up the water. Momonkechi, please help me move the furniture to higher ground. Working as a team, they managed to keep the floodwaters at bay. By the time the storm passed, they were exhausted but relieved. They sat together, drenched but safe, and Nosa realized something important. Despite the challenges and differences, they were a family. And no matter what came their way, they would face it together. In the days following the storm, the village began to recover. Neighbors helped each other repair their homes and clean up the debris. Nosa, Amara, and Momonkechi worked side by side, mending fences and planting new seeds in the garden. The storm had brought them closer together, and they felt more united than ever. One afternoon, while Nosa and Momonkechi were fixing the roof, a group of children from the village came running towards them, shouting excitedly. Nosa! Momonkechi! Come quickly! There's a traveler in the village square telling amazing stories. Curious, they followed the children to the village square. There, they found a tall, old man with a long, grey beard, surrounded by an eager crowd. The traveler introduced himself as Bobatund, a renowned storyteller who traveled from village to village sharing tales of adventure and wisdom. Bobatund began his story, capturing the attention of everyone around. He spoke of brave warriors, clever animals, and magical lands. Nosa and Momonkechi were enthralled by his words, their imaginations running wild with the vivid images he painted. As the sun began to set, Bobatund finished his tale and thanked the villagers for their hospitality. Before he left, he announced that he would stay for a few days and invited everyone to join him for more stories each evening. That night, Nosa had an idea. Momonkechi, he said, why don't we invite Bobatund to stay with us? We have plenty of room, and it would be wonderful to hear more of his stories. Momonkechi smiled and agreed. That's a great idea, Nosa. Let's invite him. The next day, they found Bobatund and extended their invitation. The old storyteller graciously accepted and moved into their home. Each evening, he shared a new story, and their house became a gathering place for the entire village. One night, as they sat around the fire listening to Bobatund's tale of a wise king who brought peace to his land, Nosa noticed Momonkechi looking thoughtful. After the story ended, she turned to Bobatund and said, your stories have reminded me of something important. Our family has faced many challenges, but through it all, we have become stronger and closer. I want to thank you, Nosa, for your patience and hard work. Nosa was touched by her words. Thank you, Momonkechi. Your guidance and stories have taught me so much. I am grateful to be part of this family. Bobatund smiled warmly at them. It seems I have found not just a place to stay, but also a family to cherish. Your bond is strong, and it will only grow stronger with time. As the days went by, Bobatund continued to share his stories, and the bond between Nosa, Amara, and Momonkechi deepened. They learned that despite their differences and the challenges they faced, love and understanding could overcome anything. But one day, a new challenge arose that tested their unity in ways they never imagined. It started with a strange rumor that spread through the village like wildfire. A rumor about a hidden treasure buried somewhere nearby, a treasure that many believed could bring great fortune to whoever found it. As the rumor of the hidden treasure spread through the village, excitement and curiosity filled the air. People began to speculate about its location, and some even started searching for it in their spare time. Nosa, Amara, and Momankechi couldn't help but be intrigued by the idea of the treasure point. One evening, as they gathered around the fire with Bobatand, Nosa brought up the rumor. "Bobatand, have you heard about the hidden treasure? Do you think it could be real?" Bobatand chuckled and stroked his long beard. "Ah, hidden treasures always make for good stories. I have heard many tales of such things. Sometimes they are real, and sometimes they are just legends. But the search for treasure often reveals more about ourselves than the gold or jewels we might find." Momankechi nodded thoughtfully. "It sounds like an adventure. Maybe we should try looking for it. Who knows what we might discover along the way?" Amara smiled. "It could be fun. And even if we don't find anything, we'll have spent time together as a family." The next morning, they decided to start their search. Bobatand joined them, offering his wisdom and guidance. They began by exploring the nearby forest, where many believed the treasure was hidden. Armed with maps, shovels, and a sense of adventure, they set off on their quest. As they walked through the dense forest, Bobatand shared more stories of hidden treasures and the people who searched for them. "Remember," he said, "the true treasure often lies not in the riches we seek, but in the journey itself and the bonds we form along the way." They searched for days, following clues and digging in promising spots, but found nothing more than old coins and broken pottery. Despite the lack of treasure, they enjoyed their time together, laughing and sharing stories. One afternoon, as they rested under a large baobab tree, Nosa noticed something unusual. Carved into the tree's bark were strange symbols. "Look at this," he said, pointing to the carvings. "Do you think it could be a clue?" Bobatand examined the symbols closely. "These markings are old, very old. They could indeed be a clue, or perhaps a message from those who came before us." Excited by their discovery, they decided to follow the direction indicated by the carvings. They ventured deeper into the forest, encountering challenges and obstacles along the way. They crossed rivers, climbed steep hills, and navigated through thick underbrush. One evening, as they set up camp by a small stream, Momankechi shared a story from her childhood. "When I was a girl, my grandmother used to tell me about a hidden cave where the ancestors stored their most precious belongings. She said it was protected by spirits and only those who were pure of heart could find it." Nosa listened intently, his curiosity piqued. "Do you think this cave could be the hiding place of the treasure?" Momankechi shrugged. "It's possible. But even if we don't find the treasure, we are creating our own story, one that we will remember and cherish." The next day, they continued their search with renewed determination. As they walked, they stumbled upon an old, overgrown path. The path led them to a hidden clearing, where they found an ancient stone structure covered in moss and vines. "This must be it," Nosa whispered, his heart pounding with excitement. They carefully cleared away the vines and found a small entrance leading into the stone structure. Inside, they discovered a hidden chamber filled with artifacts, old scrolls, and beautiful carvings. But there was no gold or jewels to be found. Bobatand smiled as he looked around the chamber. "This is a treasure in its own right. The history and stories preserved here are priceless." As they examined the artifacts, they realized that the true treasure was the knowledge and wisdom passed down through generations. They had uncovered a piece of their heritage, a connection to their ancestors and their past. Nosa, Amara, and Momankechi returned to the village with a newfound appreciation for their history and the bond they shared. They may not have found the riches they sought, but they discovered something far more valuable, the love and unity of their family. Back in the village, the news of their discovery spread quickly. Everyone was eager to see the ancient artifacts and hear the stories behind them. Nosa, Amara, Momankechi, and Bobatand decided to hold a gathering to share their findings with the entire village. That evening, the village square was filled with people. Nosa and his family displayed the artifacts on a large table, while Bobatand prepared to tell the story of their adventure. As the villagers gathered around, Bobatand began, "My friends, what we have here is a treasure not of gold or jewels, but of our history and culture. These artifacts tell the stories of our ancestors and remind us of where we come from." Nosa then stepped forward and pointed to the ancient scrolls. These scrolls contain stories and wisdom passed down through generations. They teach us about courage, love, and the importance of family. Momankechi held up a beautifully carved statue. This statue represents the spirit of our ancestors, watching over us and guiding us. We must honor their legacy by staying true to our values and traditions. Amara smiled and added, "Our journey to find this treasure brought us closer together as a family. We learned that the true treasure lies in the love and support we give each other." The villagers listened intently, moved by the stories and the significance of the artifacts. They realized that the hidden treasure was not just about material wealth, but about understanding and preserving their heritage. After the gathering, many villagers approached Nosa and his family, expressing their gratitude and admiration. "You have reminded us of what truly matters," one elder said. "We must cherish our past and pass on its wisdom to future generations." As the night went on, the village celebrated with music, dancing, and laughter. Nosa felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that their adventure had brought so much joy and understanding to their community. Days turned into weeks, and life in the village returned to normal. Nosa, Amara, and Momankechi continued to share the stories and lessons they had learned with others. Bobatand stayed with them, becoming a beloved member of their family and the village. But one day, a messenger arrived with news that would once again test their unity and strength. A neighboring village was in trouble, suffering from a drought that threatened their crops and livestock. They desperately needed help, and the villagers looked to Nosa and his family for guidance. Nosa gathered his family and Bobatand to discuss what they should do. "We must help them," Nosa said firmly. "We have been blessed with plenty, and it is our duty to share with those in need." Momankechi nodded in agreement. "Our ancestors taught us the importance of community and compassion. We cannot turn our backs on them." Amara added, "We should gather supplies and bring them to the neighboring village. It will be a difficult journey, but we must do it." Bobatand smiled proudly at them. "You have learned well. Let us prepare and set off at dawn." The next morning, they loaded carts with food, water, and other essential supplies. The villagers joined together, donating what they could and offering their support. As Nosa and his family prepared to leave, the entire village gathered to see them off. "May the spirits guide you and keep you safe," an elder said, placing a hand on Nosa's shoulder. Nosa nodded, feeling the weight of their responsibility but also the strength of their community behind them. "We will return soon," he promised with determined hearts. Nosa, Amara, Momankechi, and Bobatand set off on their journey to help the neighboring village. They knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but they were ready to face whatever obstacles came their way. The journey to the neighboring village was long and arduous. They traveled for days through scorching sun and dry, cracked land. Despite the harsh conditions, Nosa, Amara, Momankechi, and Bobatand pressed on, motivated by the thought of helping those in need. When they finally arrived, they were greeted by the sight of withered crops and empty water wells. The people of the neighboring village looked weary and desperate. The village chief, an elderly man named Chief Ode, welcomed them with gratitude. "Thank you for coming," Chief Ode said, his voice filled with relief. "We have been praying for help, and you are truly a blessing." Nosa and his family immediately began distributing the supplies they had brought. They worked tirelessly, making sure everyone had enough food and water. As they helped, they also shared stories of hope and resilience, lifting the spirits of the villagers. Bobatand, with his gift for storytelling, gathered the children around and told tales of heroes who overcame great challenges. His stories brought smiles and laughter, reminding everyone of the strength and courage within them. Days turned into weeks as Nosa and his family worked side by side with the villagers to rebuild their community. They taught them techniques for conserving water and growing drought-resistant crops. Slowly but surely, the village began to recover. One evening, as they sat around a fire, Chief Ode spoke to Nosa. "Your kindness and wisdom have saved us. We will never forget what you have done for us." Nosa smiled humbly. "We are all part of a larger family. Helping each other is what makes us strong." Momankechi added, "The true treasure is not in riches, but in the love and unity we share." As the villagers celebrated their newfound hope, a sudden and unexpected event occurred. Dark clouds gathered in the sky, and a soft rumble of thunder echoed in the distance. Moments later, raindrops began to fall, gradually turning into a heavy downpour. The villagers danced and cheered, their faces lifted to the sky in joy. The long-awaited rain had finally arrived, quenching the parched earth and filling the wells. It was a sign that their perseverance and unity had been rewarded. Nosa, Amara, Momankechi, and Bobatand stood together, watching the joyous scene unfold. They knew that they had not only helped the village survive but had also strengthened the bonds of friendship and community. When it was time to return home, the villagers sent them off with heartfelt thanks and gifts of appreciation. As they made their way back, Nosa felt a deep sense of fulfillment. They had faced great challenges and emerged stronger, with their hearts full of love and gratitude. Back in their own village, they were welcomed as heroes. The story of their journey spread, inspiring others to be kind and courageous. Nosa, Amara, and Momankechi knew that their adventures had taught them valuable lessons about family, community, and the true meaning of treasure. As they sat together one evening, reflecting on all that had happened, Bobatand smiled and said, "Every ending is a new beginning. Your story will continue, filled with love, adventure, and the wisdom of the ancestors." Nosa nodded, feeling a deep sense of peace. "We are ready for whatever comes next, as long as we face it together." And so, Nosa and his family lived on, always ready to help others and find the true treasures in life. Their story became a legend in their village, a reminder that the greatest wealth comes from the bonds we share and the love we give.